Picture a ship so advanced, so heavily armed, that it was meant to rule the Baltic Sea for the next 100 years. Now picture it sinking before it even left the harbor, in front of the king's own ambassadors, in less time than it takes to watch this video's introduction. This wasn't a storm. It wasn't an enemy attack. It was a warship built by one of Europe's most powerful kings, doomed by a mistake so basic that sailors literally tried to warn everyone the week before it sailed. And more than 3 centuries later, it rose again from the seafloor almost perfectly intact, as if time itself had paused. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how a 64-gun battleship failed catastrophically in full public view, and how the freezing, filthy water that killed it became the reason we can still walk through it today. Rewind to the 1620s. Sweden is locked in the 30 Years' War, one of the bloodiest conflicts in European history, and King Gustavus Adolphus wants a weapon to match his ambition. He commissions a ship unlike anything the Swedish Navy has built before, over 69 meters long, carrying 64 bronze cannons across 2 full gun decks, covered in hundreds of carved wooden sculptures painted in gold, red, and blue. Its name is Vasa, after the royal dynasty itself. The king personally dictates its dimensions and firepower, changing the specifications mid-construction, even as war deadlines tighten. Shipbuilding in the 1600s has no blueprints in the modern sense. Master shipwrights work from experience and instinct, passed down like folklore. And the man overseeing this unprecedented design, Henrik Hybertsson, is already gravely ill, running out of time to correct a project spiraling beyond anything his experience prepared him for. Here's where it goes wrong. Partway through construction, Hybertsson dies, leaving an unfinished, overambitious ship in the hands of assistants who dare not challenge a king's orders. Vasa is built top-heavy, too much weight in cannons and carvings stacked high above the waterline, not enough ballast stone low in the hull to balance it. Shipwrights of the era actually had a test for this. 30 sailors sprint together from one side of the deck to the other, and if the ship rocks dangerously, it fails. Vasa failed that test spectacularly, nearly capsizing after just 3 runs, forcing the supervising admiral to stop the demonstration early. He reported it upward. Nothing changed. Sweden was at war. The king wanted his flagship, and no shipbuilder wanted to be the one who told an absolute monarch that his masterpiece was structurally unsound. August 10, 1628. Vasa sets sail from Stockholm for the very first time, cannons blasting a ceremonial salute, crowds of citizens and foreign diplomats lining the shore to watch Sweden's new superweapon head to sea. It doesn't get far. A modest gust of wind fills the sails, and the ship tilts. Water floods through the open lower gun ports, installed low to the waterline for firepower, now a death trap. Vasa rights itself briefly, then heels again, further this time, and doesn't recover. Within about 20 minutes of leaving the dock, having sailed roughly 1,300 meters, the pride of the Swedish Navy rolls onto its side and sinks in full view of a horrified crowd. Around 30 of the 150 people aboard drown, trapped below deck or dragged down by the ship's own rigging, in water barely 32 meters deep. So who takes the blame? An official inquiry launches almost immediately, hauling in shipwrights, sailors, and officers for questioning. Everyone points fingers at everyone else. The surviving captain insists the crew wasn't drunk, and the rigging was sound. Carpenters swear they built exactly what they were told to build. Investigators even reconstruct the ballast calculations and confirm what the failed stability test had already shown. The ship simply didn't have enough weight low in the hull to counteract the top-heavy gun decks and ornamentation. And yet, remarkably, nobody is ever punished. Because the uncomfortable truth is that everyone from the shipwrights to the admiral to the king himself bears some responsibility. And no one in the courtroom has the political nerve to say a king's design killed 30 of his own people. The case quietly closes, unresolved. Vasa should have simply rotted away, like most wooden shipwrecks. Instead, the Baltic Sea accidentally became the perfect time capsule. Shipworms, the tiny mollusks that devour sunken wood in most oceans within decades, cannot survive in the Baltic's unusually low salinity. With no wood-eating organisms, no strong currents, and cold, oxygen-poor mud settling over the hull, Vasa simply sat undisturbed on the harbor floor, 32 meters down, for 333 years. The masts eventually broke off and were salvaged for scrap. But the hull, the carvings, even rope, sailcloth, and the skeletons of some who drowned, stayed locked in near-freezing darkness, forgotten by almost everyone except a stubborn rumor that something enormous still lay beneath Stockholm's harbor, waiting to be found. Enter Anders Franzen, an amateur archaeologist obsessed with Baltic shipwrecks, who spends years in the 1950s trawling Stockholm's harbor with a homemade coring tool, pulling up black oak splinters from the mud. In 1956, one core comes up soaked in tar and unmistakably old. He's found her. Divers confirm it, an almost fully intact 17th century warship, sitting upright on the seabed. What follows is one of the most delicate salvage operations in history. Divers tunnel 6 passages beneath the hull by hand, threading massive steel cables through the mud so pontoons can lift the wreck without tearing it apart. On April 24, 1961, Vasa breaks the surface for the first time in 333 years, battered, waterlogged, but astonishingly about 98% original. Crowds gather again, just as they did the day it sank. Raising Vasa was only half the battle. Soggy 17th century oak, exposed to air, will crack and collapse within years unless treated. Conservators spend the next 17 years slowly spraying the entire hull with polyethylene glycol, a wax-like compound that seeps into waterlogged wood cell by cell, replacing water so the timber won't shrink and disintegrate as it dries. The ship now sits in a custom-built museum in Stockholm, the single most visited museum in Scandinavia, drawing over 1 million visitors a year to stare up at a disaster frozen in time. Here's the twist worth sitting with. Vasa was such a catastrophic failure that it sailed for barely 20 minutes, yet that failure preserved it so perfectly that we now know more about 17th century shipbuilding, warfare, and daily life than from almost any ship that actually survived its voyage. Subscribe for more stories like this.